Oh my goodness. International Fight Week just wrapped up this past weekend and we had some really good fights. The last 3 fights from the main card absolutely delivered. Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, Pantoja versus Kai Kara France, and last but not least, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. We ate good with these fights for sure, and we gotta talk about each of these fights because these were all too good to not talk about. Starting with Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. Okay, let's do this. So Brandon Royval was the #1 flyweight contender going into this fight, but originally it was supposed to be Manel Kape instead of Joshua Van. And if you didn't know, this man has a record of canceling fights left and right, just like Paulo Costa, who has also supposed to fight Roman Kopylov on the main card, but that got cancelled. So Manel Kape pulled out from the fight, and Brandon needed an opponent. But who could have possibly stepped in on short notice? Just out of nowhere, here comes Joshua Van, stepping in on 3 weeks of short notice and fought in UFC 316 and gave us a banger. On paper, this was a great fight. Joshua just got ranked in number 12 in the flyweight division and is already facing the #1 contender on short notice. This was a huge test for Van, and we were all excited to witness this fight. And let me tell you, this was a legendary fight. Absolute war happened in the cage as soon as the fight started. These guys were just throwing bombs with each other and they just kept going. It was like a Dragon Ball Z fight coming to life. These guys went out there and gave us an amazing performance, and this fight was fight of the night for a reason. Just in the last few seconds of the 3rd round, it was almost hard to judge this fight, but as soon as Joshua dropped Brandon to the ground with a good strike, it was right then and there that we all knew who won the fight. My absolute respect goes to Brandon, of course. He could have easily just said, nah, I don't want to fight him because he's barely a ranked opponent and needs more wins, but the UFC was just like, you're gonna fight Joshua Van, and Brandon was just like, okay. Awesome fight to watch, and with that win, Joshua is more than likely going to fight the winner of Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. Speaking of, y'all need to put Pantoja some respect on his name, man. This guy right here is just straight up dominating the division and is making it look easy. We all used to hate this man for beating our boy Brandon Moreno and Steve Erzik a few years back, but after watching his performances in his latest title defenses, we owe him an apology. Honestly, I think at this point, if Pantoja is fighting another high-ranking contender in the flyweight division, there is no way he is gonna lose. He's just too good at what he does, and he's finally ranked at number 5 in the pound-for-pound rankings, which is a very well-deserved ranking in my opinion. The only person that I think may actually give Pantoja a problem is Joshua Van, which is exactly who they're both fighting against in their next fight. Pantoja versus Van is going to be another awesome fight to watch. Both of these guys are very respectable fighters, and whenever this fight is official, we all gotta tune in and watch every second of it because this will be war. And before I forget, Pantoja finally got his own custom shorts. Look how slick they are. And that leads us to our next and final fight, which a lot of you Charles fans were absolutely sick after watching what happened. So now it's the main event, and I really wish that it had been Topuria versus Makhachev as the main event instead. That fight would have been incredible to watch, but what's done is done. We can't complain about it now. It's Topuria versus Oliveira as the main event, and after seeing Ilia's last 2 fights, I think we all expected what was going to happen to Charles. I mean, Charles has been in the game for so long that maybe he still has a chance to submit Ilia, but we still had that thought that Ilia will obliterate Charles. And guess what happened? You're damn right, Ilia knocked out Charles. Look, as a fan of both fighters, I was pretty much rooting for one of these guys to win, but honestly, I was rooting more for Topuria. And when this knockout happened in the very first round, I was absolutely losing it. It was crazy to see how effective that right hand of Ilia Topuria is, and seeing how Charles just fall to the floor like that was wild. I can understand why Charles Oliveira fans are completely sad now after seeing that, because damn, Ilia, you ain't gotta do all that, bro. He literally replicated the same moment that Conor did to Jose Aldo when he knocked him out too. Exact same pose and everything. And at the time of this recording, Ilia Topuria is now the official #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, and his knockout to Charles Oliveira has 12 million views in just 2 days compared to the same other big moments like Max Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje, which has 9 million views in over a year and 2 months. We absolutely have a star in our hands. That was a crazy moment to see, and it's crazy that Ilia is the first 2-division champ with an undefeated record. Crazy stuff, man, for real. Overall, all of these 3 fights were so good. I highly recommend these 3 fights to anybody who is not a fan of the UFC and just understand why we love this sport. And before I end this video, I've been seeing a lot of hate from the Islam fans at Ilia now that Islam is no longer the #1 pound for pound fighter in the UFC. And I just want to say this, I think Ilia rightfully deserves his spot at #1. For now, because 1, Ilia is literally a 2-division champ, like come on now, and whereas Islam is not. Number 2, if Islam beats JDM and becomes the welterweight champion, then yeah, of course, I think Islam should be #1 again, but it depends on how he beats JDM too. And number 3, if we're really comparing the way how both of these guys have won their fights, I think Ilia takes it since he's coming off of dominant wins. And I don't want to hear no one saying, oh, but Charles Oliveira is washed, Islam already beat him in his prime, it's different. Oh yeah? When Armin Tsarukyan pulled out from fighting Islam and when Renato Moicano stepped in on a 1-day short notice, you guys didn't see his win like, damn, that was a good fight, but it should have been Armin instead of Renato. But instead, y'all were like, oh yeah, Islam is the best. No one can ever stop Islam. #1 pound for pound. But anyways, that's all I got for now. This was a great event regardless. I can't wait for the future for what happens for Ilia and Pantoja versus Van. I don't think the UFC is even trying to promote Armin to fight for the belt lately, especially how they already made Paddy and Ilia have a face-off to fight against each other, but we'll see what happens. But until then, I'll see y'all later. Goodbye.